Hello, and welcome to the Crafsman Show. My name is your host, the Crafsman. In today's video, I found this space bubble blaster right here. Look at that, how nice. It's got really luxurious curves, little bumpy details. I like it. It reminds me of retro science fiction like ray guns, you know what I'm talking about? Buck Rogers and those. But can we make this thing look like a metal ray gun? Maybe. Maybe not, though. We might can. All right, check that out. Before we start just painting this thing, let's talk about surface preparation, which Crafsman has covered extensively on the channel. As I said before, you've got multiple options, which are plastic adhesion promoter, which is a chemical. You may or may not want to use aerosol, but that can help anything glue paint stick to your plastic. A little sandpaper. I like sanding sponges because they can conform to smoother surfaces, and you can put water. It'll soak into it, and you can wet sand so you ain't breathing particles. But my favorite technique is flame annealing, using a very, very light flame. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But before we can do surface preparations, we need to disassemble it. And then it's always customary, once the screws is loose, to just turn it and bank it. And it's always customary that one screw does not come out. Alright. Yeah. There we go. Okay, and let me just pause game real quick and just say, I'm doing things a little different this episode, closer to the way I used to do videos, which I'm just talking right into the camera. I got away from doing that and started doing voiceovers, so I have no idea how I sound. I ain't got no headphones. That's why I sound better, in my opinion, in my narrated videos, because I hear myself and I can say, "Ooh, you need to change that." And I'd like to say thank you too to my wife for helping me video this episode. Except for this shot right now because it's on a tripod. I'm bragging. But show what you can do a little bit. Show a little bit of what you can do. Look at that, my hands. Is my hands free? Yep. I like it. Thank you. By the way, before I take it apart, I want to show you it's got a little mechanism. All right, so what I'm hoping is that it will come apart like it'll come apart. Yeah. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, because I don't want to lose my little gears and springs and sprongs up in here, so let's just try carefully. Ooh, okay, I was scared it was all gonna just go just explode all over the place, but I'm gonna very carefully set this to the side for a later time. So we have two clean halves here, and now, so let me just say this: when you get these things, I can feel like I don't know if it shows up, little wetness, but it's typically mold release, typically going to be some kind of oily thing on these from the factory. At a minimum, you're going to want to wash that off, okay? IPA, alcohol, some soap and water. But as I said, Crafsman is going to flame anneal these mama jamas. All right. Going to use the helping hands for this one. I have a link in the description. Sometimes I get asked. I've used this thing for years. It's been wonderful for soldering, for painting, any kind of applications, but I'm going to use it for flame annealing. So let's go. All right, so I just want to say it's a very low flame, and be careful if you do any of this type of stuff right here. All right, we've got both sides flame annealed, and I want to show you a cool way that you can tell if it's a good job, if it's probably going to accept paint. And it's a simple little test right here. Look at this. All right, so what we're going to do next is when you're working with clear things, I have learned, just take my advice on this. Go ahead and opaque that inside, because sometimes if you go ahead and paint the outside of a clear thing and you don't paint the inside, it's still kind of semi see-through. We don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to basically black out the inside of our blaster here. All right, just about like that right there. And so now this will allow us two things. It's going to help keep that light from going through the clear, and also help us to read the surface better, which is important because that brings us to our next critical technique. Crafsman likes to take and go around the edges of the plastic, look for any flash, any little thin, what would be otherwise little cheap looking pieces of plastic that we could take and just either easily sand it off, or just take an X-Acto and it's just scrape. I find that this little detail of removing excess plastic makes the final product look better, look more quality, you know. As bad as I want to just go take this outside and paint it right now, metallic, some things we still want to do. Would it be possible to have this thing look seamless? It might backfire, but I just think it would be real quality if we did that. So before I paint it, I'm going to actually take and do a montage in which I just go all over this thing with filler, and we're going to sand it smooth. I realized something also. If I'm going to be putting filler in between here, then that means I got to go ahead and get what's going to be in here. Okay, so that means our little assembly mechanism here. Yeah. All right, that's what we're looking like so far. Now, you can see, we can still see a visible seam line right there, but I'm hoping that, look, feel that. See how that's real smooth? See how you can't really feel like a catch, a groove right there? See that? That's what you want. You want that smoothness of surface, which means that when we paint it, it should hopefully all tie together. But first things first, look at all these little holes. I gotta fill them in with some epoxy scope. Oh, I cracked it right there by squeezing it too hard. I was sanding it and I cracked it, so but I glued it and sanded it. Let's put some epoxy scuff in these holes and finish this thing out so we can paint it. Epoxy scuff is what I like to use for filler. It's a two-part 1-to-1 A to B epoxy clay. Mixes real easy and sticks to plastic real well. And just come in here with our epoxy scuff and just mush it. You know, we're not too worried. We're gonna mush it and then smudge, just mush it. We're gonna smooth it out and everything. It's sanded once it cures, but yeah, it's just the process of patching it up. That's how we do it. My papa was a great old man. My wife and me were at the grocery store the other day, and this man and woman were talking. I just overheard in the next aisle, and the man told the lady, my doctor told me I was a high risk. And she said, for what? He just said, in general. And then he started laughing. I never heard anybody say it like that before. Anyway, all right. That's what we're looking like. Now, you know, it does not look quite right. Craftsman put a div grip on it without sanding and cracked it, so hopefully we can smooth that out. But look here, hopefully that paint, like I said, hopefully that's going to tie it together. And look, all these little areas where we did the epoxy scuff, see that just smoothed it. Yeah. Let's prime this thing. All right. And that's what we're looking like. Few little touch-ups right around here. Let's see. The handle looks pretty smooth. That's not too bad right there. So a little more sanding, a little more paint, a little less conversation. Ooh. Now you could probably get your finest paint job using an airbrush, but since we're doing a Dollar Tree, dollar store build, Crafsman said we're gonna use some hardware store paint. There's so many things that you can do extra, like add you some wood to it. Look at this. If you really want to take it the next step, you could try electroplating. That's another bit on maybe. But I hope that y'all enjoyed it. All right. Until next time, I love y'all. And keep on steady crafting. All right. But first things first, before we prime it, we need to disassemble it. Disassemble it. Let's do that again. And it doesn't really hurt to sand it anyway, because it only helps the abrasion, adhesion, excuse me, even more. Goodness gracious. But my favorite is the torch. I like this right there. It's what we call flame annealing. But first, but before we can paint anything, we need to disassemble anything.